welcome to our first webinar, Set Up Stage 1. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Mark Whitefred. My role we recognise as pre-sales, training and support. So you've most probably spoken to me, some people, otherwise you've most probably seen me as well. In this time, we're going to go through the setup. Hopefully by the end of it, you'll have a better understanding on the Reconeyez equipment. Okay, we do it in stages. Stage 1 is setting up the equipment. Stage 2 is deployment, and stage 3 is configuring bespoke in the cloud. So today's stage 1. So if I could ask you just to do the mute, and we'll do Q's and A's at the end of the webinar. I've got my colleague Tony, he's on the call as well. So any Q's and A's, he'll be able to answer for you. Okay, if you raise your hand as well, for any questions, we can do that as well. I think what we'll do, we've got 3 minutes past, so we'll carry on. So, welcome. Reconeyez. We're going to start with the equipment first of all. Okay, so I'm going to go through the 2 bridges. So this is what we call a standard bridge. Okay, the GSM is at the top, the 2.4 connection is at the bottom. That's just a standard bridge. Okay, now this is what we call the good area 1. Difference between the 2 is the GSM is external. So the aerial is external, the 2.4 is downwards, okay? As you've got 2 aerials, the easiest way to recognise between the 2 different aerials is that the one that goes downwards has got printed 2.4 in it. So that makes it easy life for you, okay? We've got charger. Now with the charger, once you slot the battery in, the charging light will illuminate. Once it's done its full charge, it will go off. Now, if you order brand new batteries, we always recommend you do a full 12-hour charge. You put them in the charger slot, forget about them until you actually see the light that's gone off, okay? Batteries are standard battery, lithium battery, okay, with the actual nut. Now, when you put these in to the device, only do them finger tight, because a lot of people in the past have used tools, and when you come to remove them, it's really difficult. So just finger tight, that's all you need. You've got a membrane there, like for the waterproofing, so finger tight, that's all you need to do, okay? Detector, okay? At the top is the actual connection, battery straight in without the actual locking nut as well, okay? Siren, the same as the detector. One is got the noise and the light, okay? And the 2 remotes that we've got. So this is the version 1 of the remote. It's got a little toggle switch. You switch it on and it connects, okay? And this is the new one. So this runs off the power of a USB-C. On our tablets, you plug it at the bottom. It automatically populates the actual app, and if you've got the new version 0.5 app, then it will automatically open up the app. With the other one, you have to obviously manually open the app for it to connect, okay? So, that's the product that we've got that we're going to go through today, okay? Now, hopefully you can see my screen that I've shared with you, okay? Just going through each picture, charge batteries, okay? Make sure you've got the app on a tablet. Now, me and Tony are recommending that people use a dedicated tablet. And the reason being, people have been putting the tablet onto their mobile phones, and we're finding there's a lot of configuration conflicts with other apps on Bluetooth on your phone. So we highly recommend that you have a specific tablet with the actual remote on it, installation app on it as well. Because if you've got a phone, there's just so many issues and so many hurdles. So if you can do that, you'll find life a lot more easier, okay? SIM cards, it's the large SIM card. A lot of people think it's the nano or the micro, it's the large one. Now, on the picture itself, if I bring my mouse, you'll see that slot. I find that it's one of the hardest things to put it in. It can be fiddly, and yes, there's going to be a good chance of you dropping it inside the carcass of the bridge. So I will say, you've got builder's hands, always get someone else to do it, yeah? Because it is quite fiddly, okay? So one of the problems we do have is activations of SIM. So we always recommend that you put a SIM into like a spare mobile phone that you can confirm that it's active and working, and there's no pin lock on it as well. Because sometimes when you receive a SIM card, there's like a pin lock on it, 4-digit pin lock. So, and the next one, you need obviously access to the app. So, with them in mind, we're going to go to the next stage, and I will hit the next one. I'm going to use this as all done for the day, okay? So, what we will do, hopefully, we will put a SIM, and it's in the bottom there. You get it into the slot. Hopefully, you can set. I'll go back a screen, and you can see where the slot is, okay? It's not the easiest, but if you can get through that, then you'll be great, yeah? So push the actual SIM card into it and push it down till you feel a click. On the actual bridge itself, there is a photograph, and it gives you a rough idea where you're supposed to put the SIM. And it's down the bottom on the right-hand side is where the little notch should be. Push it down, and then make sure it clicks in place, okay? Next stage, place one battery. I only used one battery, but you can put as many as you want in, okay? Screw the locking nut, just finger tight, and I always wait for about 30 to 60 seconds for it to just sort of like activate, okay? A lot of people go straight into it, but I always say just wait about 30 seconds, okay? Now, once you get to 30 seconds, you should have your installation app and your remote on, and you'll do a scan. And once you find that scan, hopefully you should pick up your bridge, like you see in this picture here, yeah? And what I've done is I've expanded it. So this is what you'll do. You'll find a bridge. You'll click on the actual bridge identification, and it will get you to the next page, okay? So that means that your remote and your tablet has picked up the equipment. Now, at this stage, you might find that you might have other Reconeyez equipment in the surrounding area. Now, this is where you have to keep in mind that if that's the case, I might have to change the channel. So it defaults at channel 22, and if you've got other ones in the area, not in your proximity, but say outside in another building site, you might have to change the channel. But so keep that in mind, okay? So we are now on the second page where you're actually on the bridge identification. And this is what you'll be presented when you hit the icon up the top right-hand side. It's like a spanner, and this is all your APN settings. Now, the thing about APN settings is hopefully your SIM provider would have told you in advance what your APN settings are, okay? And this also gives you a rough idea whether your SIM is active, because these areas should be populated with your SIM provider's details. If they are not, and you've got a command line of say like initialization, you know that your SIM is potentially not active. So that gives you a head up. If you don't have an activation on your SIM, then this is where it gives you a sort of heads up whether it's active or not, okay? So, starting from the top, 3 lines, that tells you what firmware version you have on that particular item that you're looking at. In this case, a bridge. So this is the newest firmware, 791. If you've got an older one, it could be 770, etc., yeah? The next line is APN. So that's the actual APN and the username and the password. You should get that from your SIM provider, okay? Be it Vodafone, EE3, or O2, okay? And if you've got a dedicated SIM provider, they might be having a separate SIM provider APN for you. So you need to clarify that with your SIM provider, yeah? There are only 4 major networks out there, but you get a lot of companies that will piggyback on top, and they give their own SIM providers details. Next one down, the server address. So we are in the UK, so we are uk.reconeyez.com. So what we have found in the past, when you have a brand new bridge, sometimes before the U, there's a full stop that populates. So just be wary, you get a brand new bridge and for some reason it's not working, have a look at the server details and just see if that full stop's not there, yeah? And also just look at these details just to clarify you've got the right APN. But I always say to people, this is a good way of saying that your SIM is active because it should populate all these details, okay? Now, RSSI, easiest way to describe RSSI, it's your mobile phone signal, okay? So the higher it is, the lower the mobile phone signal. I like to tell people no more than 87. As you can see, this is 75. Okay, so 75 is a good place. You get up to 87, you're going on borderline of the 1 bar. So I would recommend that if you've got a good network, less than 85 is where you want to be. Okay, BER bits. That's at the moment we're in a good place. Yeah, that really does influence you if you are on battery. It can influence the battery. The higher the BER, it can influence your battery as well. Okay. All this line here should be populated with your SIM. There is another line which is slightly below this, which where you can change the channel on your bridge in this case, or your detectors. Everything else, you're over engineering. So all these lines here, you don't really need to get involved in, yeah? So they're the main ones, your firmware, APN, user, and password. UK server, you don't need to touch that. This should be populated by your SIM if it's active, okay? And what I suggest you do then is always click on the reload. What the reload does, it then sends all the details to the server to say, this is my bridge and I'm activating it, okay? So when you've done that, if you give the bridge a really good, what I call it, the cocktail shape, as hard as you can do it, and on the cloud, you should get your bridge coming up with possible theft. That tells me that you're in a good place and your bridge has been activated. And what happens on the cloud, it goes from being a question mark to a B. So that's the key point. If you can get all your details correct and your SIM card is populated, you know, and you give it what I call the cocktail shake, remotely on the actual cloud, you should get your bridge as like a tamper, possible theft, yeah? Okay. And when we just go back, okay, you can, if you want, just reload it a few times, because sometimes it's quite common for you to get errors. 24 and 34, 35, they're the most popular ones. Don't worry. All you need to do is just reload it a couple of times. So if you don't get that tamper, just reload it a couple of times and shake it a little more times. What we're finding, sometimes it takes just that little bit longer to upload the image. So if you haven't got the image after 10 seconds, don't worry. Just sort of like wait for a little bit longer for it to upload the actual image, okay? So once you've got that tamper, you know your bridge is active. Thumbs up, good to go, okay? So what we would do then is that we can look at what we call the modem log, okay? So if you go back a page, so this page here, which gives you bridge, up the top right-hand side, can you see them 3 bullets? Click on one of them 3 bullets, and you should show modem log. Click on the modem log, and initially you will get this. That's always happens first time. Okay, so that's the actual system going through its sort of like chain of events. Okay. And once you start getting modem, idle, and sending, you know it's sending and receiving data. We're in a good place. Anything other than that, and at the end of the presentation, I'll show you the errors you get. If there's an issue, then it will come back with an actual error code, okay? Now, let's go back to the scan. So we're in a good place for the bridge. It's up and working. We've got tamper. So the next thing we're going to do, we're going to scan for a detector. So put your battery on your detector, and I always leave everything with the batteries out and do one thing at a time. So your bridge is your first one, then your detectors. Put your detector in, battery, then scan, and you should pick up a D detector, okay? And you go to the next page. In this case, it's a bridge, but it'd be a D detector, okay? You'll get a spanner, okay? And then you'll be presented with a page, not like this one, a lot more basic, but this page, first 3 lines, it will give you the actual detector's firmware version, and the only one you want to get involved in if you really want to change the channel, which is on the lower page, okay? Now, one thing I would highly recommend is when you scan on this first page, you might get a command line at the top that says exchanging keys. It's there for a reason. It's telling you it's doing something, okay? So I would highly recommend that when that command line is finished, that's when it's good to go for you to do the next page. Because if it fails for its exchange, not exchange the key, it might be that your Wi-Fi that this tablet's connected to isn't brilliant, or if you're potentially using the mobile phone signal isn't good and it hasn't exchanged the key. So if it fails on this line, then you'll get issues on the next page. So always wait for that command line to finish exchanging keys, okay? That's always a good tip, yeah? Now, just going back a page. In this case, we've got the bridge, but if you had a detector, you've got I call it a teardrop. Press the teardrop there. That will give you a GPS setting when you actually deploy it, but you won't be doing that until stage 2. But this gives you what that icon is. Also, this is where you can tag it. You can change it and label it to whatever you want, okay? Sometimes if you find that the actual configuration hasn't been activated on the cloud, if you change this tag, in this case it's Freddy 61 Charlie, just to something else, it uploads it a lot more quicker. So that's the little tip as well, yeah? Okay, so, bridge. Okay, we've gone to there. Modem log, that gives you a rough idea how and where you are the status of your SIM card. Now, on your SIM card, it has to be SMS enabled. Now, one of the reasons why we've asked for it to be SMS enabled is because of the IAS. Now, the IAS enables it to do various commands, and the most popular ones is snapshot. Now, without IAS enabled or SMS enabled, then your snapshot potentially won't work, okay? So when you go with your SIM provider, first thing you want to ask is data package, and secondly, you want it SMS enabled, okay? So that works with our system, the SMS. And this basically tells you some of the things it does. It's all to do about remote calling or remote SMS to put on the commands, okay? So we do need the SIM card to be SMS enabled, please, yeah? Okay, next page. Siren installation. That's exactly the same as the detector. You go for the same pages as you would do if I go back to that page. So in this case, you would have an S, a siren, and you would actually connect it and upload it exactly the same as you would do a bridge. So if that was a siren, you'd have an S, you click on it, it exchange the keys, and then it will remotely activate it, okay? I always find the hardest part is the bridge. Once you get through the bridge, the siren and the detector and stroke keypad is a lot more easier. Okay, so we go forward Yeah, so IAS, that's quite important that your SIM is SMS enabled. Siren is exactly the same that you do with a detector. You can, when you activate a siren, there is, and I'll show you, it's there, but I'll show you where the page that it comes to. There is a button for you to actually click on, and it will activate the siren. It's quite loud, so you'd have to put your hand over it just to make sure. Now, going back to the APN settings, can you see all these error codes that we've got there on my bottom right-hand side? The most popular ones are 24, which is quite normal, 33 or 34, okay? Now, if you are getting that in the modem log or in the actual menu of the bridge, you know there's a problem, okay? 24 and 34, a lot of the time they do disappear, but they are permanently there, you know there's a problem. So what I suggest you do is go back to where the APN settings are and just check the APN settings to see where they are correct, okay? If they haven't gone after a while, you know it's a problem potentially either with the SIM card or the APN settings. And that's why I would look at the APN settings, the server, make sure you've got a decent RSSI, less than 87. Okay, your bit rates, make sure they're not high. Want to be as low as possible. Okay, and if you can see any of these on the actual menu, then you know you're in a problem place. Yeah. Okay. So I would say to go back, and if we go back to the menu, just check this all over again. Reload it again. You might reload it a few times and give it a good rattle again. If it goes into that area and then you get in on the modem log, you're okay, you know you're in a good place. Okay. Let's go back to the errors. Next few errors. So all of this information, just for the record, is on the help side. So if you've got access to the cloud, go to the help icon, click on the help icon, and all this information here is downloadable. Also, what I want you to do, if anybody wants a copy of this presentation, let us know. We'll send it out to you. It's always nice to have a hard copy involved in it. So, key points are SIM card, make sure it's active. Batteries, 12 hours minimum if they are brand new. When inserting the SIM card, be a little bit careful when you insert it, because it's very easy to pop inside. Okay. Scan. When you scan, make sure you're picking up your own detectors and bridge and siren. You're not picking up someone else's by mistake. Okay. When you scan, okay, you get to the next page, which is in this case the bridge. Click on the spanner, and you'll be presented with these details. I always tend to find if somebody rings me up on support, okay, I will say to them, let's go to this place first, because if these aren't populated or these are incorrect, this is the first place you need to start off with, yeah? And what I will say is reload it, and if you get any errors, this is the place where you get the errors, mobile connection error, 24, 33, 34, whatever, okay? And do the actual bridge site. That's in the actual area of the cloud. And these are your modem logs as well. So the modem logs can help you because it can tell you after so many minutes if it's sending and receiving. So if you're not getting any of this, you know potentially there is an issue with the SIM card, okay? Now, have you got any questions? Anybody got any questions at all? No? No?
Yep, one question.
Fire away, my friend.
Just a question about the other bridge with the two external areas, aerials. Are they useful in an area? Yeah, are they useful in an area where the mobile signal's a bit poor? Does it help with that?
Hi, Kevin. How are you doing?
Hey, Tony, how are you, mate?
I'm all right, all right.
Absolutely.
In
What
the
it-
Cotswolds, yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
okay,
it would help.
perfect.
Yeah, with the twin aerial, what it does, the GSM is external. So it's with the standard one, the GSM is internal, but with this one, it's external. And yes, it does help with a poor GSM signal.
Perfect.
What you can do, just go on to this. These external aerial, if you're in a, we don't have a satellite connection yet. I believe there are plans or thoughts of bringing a satellite modem in, but you can put what's called a high gain aerial on these. Getting the connection can be a bit tricky, but we can always help out with it. And if you've got a particularly nasty place where you're struggling, you can get a high gain aerial on a 3 meter cable and run especially where you are, Kevin, you can run the high gain aerial to the top of one of your trees.
Yeah,
And you'd get a stronger signal. I say the cable itself, they're not standard. You have to get to a cable maker, or I can tell you how to get 2 cables and make them into the right one.
Okay.
They do help. The external aerial I actually found it gives it changes the dB a little bit, but not massively. The internal one is good, and I think that the best use for the external area is to whack a high gain on it. But yes, in your area, Kev, where you are over in the middle of the Cotswolds, if you were having problems, it would help you a bit. Yes.
Yeah. I'm just mindful that our bridges are almost entirely in valley sort of areas.
Yes.
So even though we're quite close to the nearest mast, we do have some issues with. I'm going to have a look at the dB next time I'm going around with the tablet and just see whether it might help.
Yeah, looking at the actual on a bridge menu, if you can look on the actual RSSI, that gives you a heads
Yeah.
up where you're going to be.
Yeah.
87, I think, is you're pushing it to the limits. The lower you get, the better your mobile phone signal. And the easiest way is to do it is 1 bar, 2 bar, 3 bar, 4 bar on your mobile phone. So
To give,
lower
sorry,
it is,
what,
whatever it is.
one second, Well, to give you an idea, I've had an installer that he had a neg 101 with the external aerial on as well, in the middle of nowhere. We put a high gain on, run it up a pole, and that went to neg 66. So there was with a high gain, a huge change in outlying areas. But if there's not a mast anywhere near you, I wouldn't try and do it in the middle of the Gobi Desert or in the middle of the jungle in Africa. It probably wouldn't work.
So
But,
the high gain can be retrofitted to an existing standard bridge. Is that what you're saying?
it can only be fitted to the twin aerial bridge, Kev, where it's got the socket at the top.
Okay, right.
Yeah, the only way to describe it is that if I take off this aerial here, you have a link cable this end and a link cable that end, and the high gain aerial is there, and it's a patched link cable between the two.
Perfect.
So instead of it just being on that, passive area, you can then rise it above and get it above. Yeah. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
I think the other thing, with a lot of people ask me about these chargers. Now, the only way to describe it, put your battery in when the light's illuminated, it's charging. When it's off, it's fully charged. Bring your batteries 12 hours. Using your mobile phone, it's a bit of a grey area with people. Me and my colleague Tony, I've had so many issues and hurdles with people using mobile phones. Now, probably mobile phones, you have so many apps and they just use the Bluetooth and it just clashes with our equipment. So we highly recommend you use a dedicated tablet. If you've got one that's got a SIM card in it, you can use it externally, but then pick it up on the mobile phone internally at your premises. Yeah, but it just stops a lot of problems that we've been having with people with mobile phones.
Okay.
Any other questions, please? So what we're going to do, feedback on, this is my first one, okay? We're going to do a stage 2. Stage 2 will be on the deployment. So What we always recommend is when setting up kit, do stage 1, which is setting it up, configuring it, make sure everything's good to go. Stage 2 is your deployment when you're outside in the field. Stage 3 is when you bespoke in the cloud. So this is my first one on stage 1. Any feedback will be warmly welcomed. If any of you would like the presentation to, as I got hardcore, let me know. More than happy to. Stage 2, we're going to announce very soon, and that will be, like I say, the deployment, how to do things good, what's best, what's wrong, what's needed to be tweaked, and all that kind of bits and pieces. But that will be hopefully within the next couple of weeks. We'll sort one out most week or next month. And stage 3 is bespoke in the cloud, doing schedules, doing the configurations of the detectors, the configurations of the sirens, and some of the bridges as well, the IAS, how to toggle it on and off, yeah? But like I say, the main thing is your SIM card has to be data enabled and SMS enabled for the IAS. And the other thing to remember is when your kit's all set up at your actual offices or in your warehouse, pop the batteries out, detector first, then the bridge. Because if you leave the batteries in, then it's carry on still doing its job. And then next thing you know, you've got 2,000 images stored on your detector, and that wants to upload then before it wants to upload real time. Pop your batteries out of your detectors, then pop the batteries out in the bridge. Just put them back in like I've done here. And they're good to go. Okay? So that's good practice, because otherwise you'll get loads of 2,000 images stored on the internal, yeah? But just to provide any other questions before we finish?
I'm definitely keen to get a copy of your presentation, Mark.
Yeah, more than happy to. More than happy to. I mean, I always find it's one thing being shown it online, but the other thing when you've got hard copy, and I've put all this together to give you ideas and show you some ideas. But that one I'm showing you now, that's always my starting point with any support. Doesn't work. If it's not populated all that information on the SIM card, that's a good place to start. Yeah. Also, if you're picking up other equipment in the proximity, that's when you've got to think to yourself, do I change the channel or do I carry on channel 22? Because we have some people who have loads of kit in the area, and what they do, they all keep it on 22, and we don't recommend any more than 8 detectors, depending on the site, it could be less. Because more than that, and you've got loads, and they all start meshing with other bridges and other detectors. So, and that decimates your battery as well. So that's the point where, when you get to that point there and you find other detectors, that's where you start thinking, right, I might start thinking about changing the channel, okay? But that will show you changing the channels and all the actual trace, walk test and all that kind of stuff on stage 2, yeah? Okay, any more questions, everyone? Brilliant. Well, look, always nice to see a face to a name. Thank you for your time. It's much appreciated. I know you're all busy people out there, and we'll be in touch, yeah? So have a great day, and all the best, yeah? Take care.
Thank you very
Cheers.
much. Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye.